Spoken about how much golf has contributed to your life. I have to say that your life has contributed a very great deal to golf as well.
That's a generous thought. I mean, and I recognize that I have that reputation, for which I'm humbly grateful. But I certainly am conscious of the fact that nothing that I've ever done for golf has been anything other than intensely satisfying on a personal basis. And if you add up the balance sheet in terms of how much golf has done for me as opposed to what I've done for golf, it isn't even close. But I'm grateful, very grateful for the perception, but much more grateful for the fact that whatever involvement I've had, I have. I still have now.
Well, I think it's much more than perception, Sandy.
I'm grateful for that thought.
Yeah.
The Rhodes Scholarship had been put on hold during the war. And it got revived in 1946. The competition occurred, and it frankly had never even remotely occurred to me that I could be a Rhodes Scholar. And it so happened that I was with a friend in a taxi cab in New York, and he said to me, "You know, did you know that the Rhodes Scholarship was going to be revived?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, it is." And he suggested that I apply. And if he hadn't suggested I apply, I said to him, "You know, okay, well, what have I got to lose?" If he hadn't suggested that I apply, it would never have occurred to me. At any rate, I applied, and to my consummate surprise, and what an incredible experience that was. 2 years at Oxford, and there again, here comes golf. Boy, did it ever figure in that experience. But the Oxford system functioned on the, I think it still does, on the basis that it was a tutorial system. Very seldom went to a lecture. You had 8 weeks in the fall, 6 weeks off at Christmas, 8 weeks, 6 weeks off in the winter, 6 weeks off in spring, and 8 more weeks, and then 3 months in the summer. And what the idea was that your tutor was to direct you. You were supposed to get the education, go get it. And then, of course, was a wonderful adjunct to the education that I had, where that was all fed to me. I had a marvelous intellectual experience, but the expansion of my horizons was very, very significant in terms of Oxford being obviously world class, but also attracted a world population. The student body was remarkably diverse, and the whole scene, the historic consequences, aspects, and it was thrilling, literally. And the intellectual side of it was very, very stimulating. The tutors that I had were so impressive. I read for a Bachelor of Civil Law degree, and the way the system worked, you had 2 years of study, and then at the end of 2 years, you had 8 days of excruciating examinations on how you did what you accumulated. And there were 2 papers in Roman law, and the questions were in Latin. Because what they did, they quoted a section from the Justinian Code in Latin and asked you to comment on it. I'd had 1 year of, oddly enough, said something about education in Los Angeles in those days. In junior high school, I had a year of Latin, but that's all I hear. And what I did, I just carried with me wherever I went a pony that had on one side the Justinian Code and on the other side the translation. And I worked at that so very hard that I could really recognize effectively and not have to go through the process. So I got through those two papers okay. But it was certainly impressive that Balliol College had an underground that took Jewish academicians out of Europe. And among the people who were in that underground was the premier Roman law scholar in all of Europe. He was my tutor. And here he's just got a kid that has had 1 year of junior high school Latin. Well, he was wonderful. So I had that experience. But then there was golf. My goodness, we played. The only university match we played was Cambridge, and otherwise we played teams around the area, and there were massive numbers of them. We played every Saturday, every Sunday, in the fall term, in the winter term, starting in October, right through the winter, into March. I played, and that added another dimension to my characteristics about feelings about golf. Weather could not matter less to me. You just got used to the fact that you were almost never to play in anything but uncomfortable circumstances, and physically. And we played, for example, we'd play on a team. We play, say, Sunnydale. So we get on a bus at Oxford at about 6 o'clock in the morning or 5:30, and we get to Sunnydale, and they'd greet us, the team that we were going to play, and we'd all sit down and have some coffee together. And as I observed in most of the clubs that when we did this, there was a designated old boy who went and reflectively looked out at this terrible maelstrom that was going on outside and said, "Oh, I say, I think it's lifting." That was the signal, and out we went. So that expanded my horizons hugely, both with regard to golf and with the people to whom I was exposed. And those friendships that I made at Oxford, particularly the golf friendships and the associations I had with the Royal Ancient in the circumstances, and Bernard Darwin was reporting our matches, and in those days, amateur golf was the game basically, and there wasn't a lot of that going on. And because we're immediate post-war, and it was tough, but we got a remarkable amount of exposure, and it was something else.
Now, England must have been just trying to find its feet and heal its wounds and recover its stride again in 1948 after all of the trauma of World War II. Must have been really something to be there. It wasn't the normal quiet time, I would think of.
Exactly what? It had a lot of deprivation and a lot of terrible weather. Shortage of coal, rationing. The rationing was really severe. 2 pieces of lousy meat a week, a couple of eggs. They just shoved in whatever else they could find. And London was chaotic in terms of what had happened to it, but there was a countervailing factor that really overwhelmed that part of the process, part of the problem, and that is that 2 things. We have individually we'd survived that war, and collectively what we'd done is to save the world as we then visualized it without any question, and we'd done it together. Yeah. So the synergy between us was really wonderful. And apropos of that, I was the only American that ever played on an Oxford golf team up to that time. Been several since, but the first one. In the context, therefore, of the feelings that the Brits had about us and what we had done, go to somebody's house, as we did we spent Saturday night in some member's house. They spread us around. Then we're going to play another club on the next day, like Woking or Warbleston and so on. And they go down into the cellar and get the wine they've been keeping for some very, very important occasion. On account of they had me there, not me, an American. And they wanted to be able to express it by giving us something that they cared a lot about.